Are you ready to see the New Orleans Saints finally push their chips to the middle of the table? Reports are surfacing that the Saints are being urged to swing a trade for Jaguars wide receiver Brian Thomas Jr. to pair with our young gunslinger Tyler Shough. This move would be a massive statement, transforming our biggest offensive question mark into an explosive threat overnight. And honestly, the more details come out, the harder it is to ignore what is going on behind the scenes. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop your name and city below. Let's get into it. The New Orleans Saints have seemingly secured their future under center with rookie quarterback Tyler Shough, who has electrified our fan base after taking command during the final stretch of the last season. After finishing his 8 starts with an impressive 5-3 record, Shough has become the centerpiece of our offseason hope, forcing the front office to pivot towards surrounding him with better weapons to maximize his development. While we already boast an established star in Chris Olave, the roster clearly lacks sufficient depth at the skill positions to truly compete at the highest level. To address this, Andy Quach of Jacksonville Jaguars Onsai recently suggested that the Saints should pursue a trade for Jaguars wide receiver Brian Thomas Jr. to bolster our passing attack. Quach argues that Thomas, who recorded nearly 1,300 receiving yards and 10 touchdowns during his rookie campaign, could regain his form by pairing up with Shough in New Orleans. And honestly, the possibility of fielding a duo of Olave and Thomas has us excited about the potential for a massive offensive transformation. While Thomas experienced a down year recently, his talent remains undeniable, and he represents the kind of proven commodity that could elevate our team immediately. However, the prospect of sacrificing valuable draft capital for a trade is fueling a heated debate among supporters who worry about the long-term impact on our depth chart. We have reached a point where management must decide if they are ready to go all in on this core or if they should prioritize patience through the draft instead. This brings up the most pressing issue for our front office right now. With limited resources available, will the Saints actually prioritize a high-profile acquisition at receiver? Or are we secretly planning to move on from our existing star wideout to create the necessary cap space for a total rebuild? The most surprising development in this potential roster overhaul is the suggestion that we might actively pursue a trade for Jaguars wide receiver Brian Thomas Jr. to fundamentally shift our offensive identity. We find ourselves at this crossroads because while rookie quarterback Tyler Shough energized our franchise, the front office is clearly prioritizing a move to become younger and more cost-effective across the entire depth chart. Andy Quach of Jacksonville Jaguars. Onasai points out that despite Thomas putting together a down year recently, his rookie season remains a massive outlier, where he tallied nearly 1,300 receiving yards and 10 touchdowns. If we acquire him, we could pair him with Chris Olave to create a dynamic duo, or potentially leverage his value to pivot entirely in a second transaction. Here's what people are missing. Building a team is not just about finding a quarterback, but about surrounding him with diverse weapons that keep defensive coordinators guessing. Historically, the Saints have seen success when they gamble on high-ceiling talents who have briefly faltered, and bringing in a player of his caliber could be the catalyst for a deep playoff run under Kellen Moore. Behind closed doors, our front office is surely evaluating if the cost of high draft capital is worth the immediate upgrade in production that Thomas represents. They are weighing the financial flexibility needed to sustain our long-term window against the urgency of capitalizing on the sudden success Shough displayed during his 8-start run last year. It is a calculated gamble, but one that aligns with our need to reload quickly rather than relying solely on the draft for development. By targeting proven commodities, we might finally address the depth deficiencies that hampered our scoring consistency last season. Watching how the team maneuvers these next few months will ultimately reveal the true vision Gayle Benson has for our immediate future. The Saints have stumbled onto a golden opportunity to transform their future, and the current moment represents a true turning point for this franchise under Kellen Moore. After witnessing the undeniable promise of rookie quarterback Tyler Shough, we find ourselves at a critical crossroads where aggressive roster construction is the only way to capitalize on his emergence. Andy Quach of Jacksonville Jaguars. Onsai recently suggested that the Saints should pursue a trade for wide receiver Brian Thomas Jr. to revitalize our passing attack. The bottom line here is that adding a talent who once produced 1,300 receiving yards and 10 touchdowns in a single season would fundamentally reshape our offensive depth chart. Pairing Thomas Jr. alongside Chris Olave creates a lethal duo capable of stretching defenses thin and providing the safety valve our young signal caller desperately needs. Integrating a proven commodity like Thomas Jr. would immediately alleviate the pressure on our front office to strike gold in every draft pick, allowing us to allocate resources toward bolstering the backfield. When we look at our upcoming slate of games, this offensive versatility becomes the difference between winning tight contests and letting potential victories slip away. By elevating our aerial output, we position ourselves to dictate the pace against every opponent, shifting our standing in a competitive division that demands high-scoring firepower to secure a postseason berth. If we can reclaim the form Thomas Jr. displayed during his rookie campaign, our playoff outlook brightens significantly, turning what was once a glaring weakness into our greatest strength. This strategic shift is exactly what our loyal supporters deserve as we build a championship-caliber team around a legitimate quarterback. By acting now, we transform our roster into a force that can truly contend with the best teams in the league throughout the entire season ahead. The potential acquisition of Jacksonville Jaguars wide receiver Brian Thomas Jr. represents a fascinating gamble for our front office as we look to maximize the window created by the emergence of Tyler Shough. The argument for this move is rooted in raw production and synergy. Pairing a receiver who once totaled nearly 2,300 receiving yards and 10 touchdowns with a quarterback who led us to a 5-3 record is an enticing proposition for any fan. And here's why that's a big deal. Thomas could provide the vertical presence we have been missing, potentially alleviating the pressure on Chris Olave, or even offering us the flexibility to pivot elsewhere if needed. However, we must remain grounded about the risks. Thomas is coming off a down year, and betting valuable draft capital on a player who has already shown inconsistency is a strategy that can backfire if he fails to regain his rookie form. Andy Quach of Jacksonville Jaguars Onsci has highlighted this as a prime opportunity for us to get younger and more talented, though he also mentions other potential targets currently circulating in league rumors, including various free agent breakout stars. While the prospect of building a high-octane offense is fun to imagine, I believe we should be cautious about surrendering too many assets for a single position. What I really think is that while Quach's suggestion is bold, we must ensure we are not neglecting the running back room or our defensive depth in the pursuit of shiny new toys. We need to balance this aggression with a disciplined approach to the draft to ensure that Kellen Moore has a complete, well-rounded roster to work with next season. Improving this team requires a calculated hand, not just chasing high-profile names. And I hope we prioritize sustained long-term success over short-term gratification. The future of our New Orleans Saints looks brighter than it has in quite some time because we finally have stability at the quarterback position with Tyler Shough. After his impressive late-season performance, the franchise direction is clearly shifting towards surrounding him with the high-level talent required to compete for titles. Think about it this way. When you possess a young, capable signal caller, the only logical step is to aggressively bolster the receiving core to maximize his potential. Andy Quach of Jacksonville Jaguars. Onsci suggests that trading for Brian Thomas Jr. could be the perfect move to pair a proven commodity with Chris Olave. Adding a talent who previously posted 1,300 receiving yards and 10 touchdowns in a single season would transform our passing attack into a legitimate threat against any secondary in the league. As dedicated fans, we should feel genuinely optimistic because the front office is no longer settling for mediocrity, but is instead scouting ways to get younger and more dangerous. This philosophy provides a clear roadmap for success by building an identity centered on explosive offensive production. By utilizing our draft capital to secure a player with the upside of Thomas Jr., we signal to the entire NFL that we are ready to take the next step. We have waited long enough for this team to rediscover its winning spirit, and having a reliable quarterback-receiver tandem is the most effective way to reach that goal. If we manage to land Brian Thomas Jr. to complement Chris Olave, would you be confident enough to label this offense a top 5 unit in the NFC next year? If you enjoyed the video, do not forget to like it and subscribe to the channel. Who Dat? I'll see you in the next one.